now. Yeah?
Yeah, much better, much better. Hi. This is Africa Investors Stories with your host, Simon Rushton. Today we have Yie Davies. He is a British guy, Jamaican heritage, living in Kenya, Mombasa. He has lived there for 11 years. He has a beauty college and a charity. He has secondary. He was a secondary school science teacher when he lived in England, as well as a community pharmacist. He grew up in Wiltshire. And for the last 15 years prior to his 11, he was living in North London. And he has a degree in pharmacy. He has 2 children, and he is living in sin. No. Anyway, nice to have you, Dave, Yie. Thank you for turning up today. Much appreciated.
Pleasure.
Okay. First of all, I have to really thank Yie here, because we did this earlier on and Resistant kicked in and I couldn't find the recording. So he's kindly, as a good friend, brother from another mother, has allowed me to do this again. So first question is, what's a typical day like for you in Africa, Kenya?
Typical day is an early rise, which is about 5 o'clock. Leave the house at about 6:30. Arrive at the salon that I run at about 7:30, and let all the girls in. In fact, the girls are normally here before I get here. I sort myself out, as in all shops, you get the float ready. Let the ladies know what we're trying to achieve for the day. Do some courtesy calls to some clients, thanking them for coming or inviting them to come, and do services, salon services on the clients who comes. Leave about 7, 8 o'clock. Arrive home about between 8 and 9 o'clock. That's a typical day.
So I noticed 2 things there. One is that you're very trusting in your staff, which is great. You allow them to open up. And the other thing is, you have a long day, just like in England. But the difference is it's your own.
The difference is it is my own, actually. But yeah, the days are long. The days are long, but they go quick. As you said, when they're your own, I suppose they go a lot quicker.
Yeah, it's great. I remember what that's like about owning your own day. My philosophy was I had to be on the beach and the Indian Ocean by 2 p.m. every day.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad.
So you've lived and worked in Africa for 11 years.
Yep, 11 years. Well, in business for about just over 10 years. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary, August 2019. And before that, we were looking for premises. In Nairobi, it was quite challenging at that time. And so that's why we ended up in Mombasa.
What made you make the decision to invest in Africa, especially Kenya?
The decision was made when I needed about £150,000 to set up a health, hair, nail and beauty shop in London. The banks and pharmacy wholesalers, they didn't understand the hair and beauty, Afro hair and beauty side of things. So they declined to give us the money for that, but offered us the cash to set up a pharmacy. But I didn't really want to go into pharmacy. So I said, well, let me have a look around, save up for a couple more years, and looked at Jamaica, looked at Ghana, and looked at Kenya. They were all countries I had visited a few times. And Jamaica, I was a bit fearful of the gun. Ghana was a bit slower, although very friendly people. And Nairobi seemed like it had the perfect target market that we were looking for. So came over to Kenya, couldn't find their premises in Nairobi, was invited to Mombasa to have a look at a few, and saw a place that I liked and decided, yeah, that's going to be the one for me. That was the main reason.
What was the most valuable lesson you had learnt when in Africa?
Most valuable lesson that I've learned, well, I suppose really and truly, you can't listen to everything that you see in the media, because the picture that is painted of Africa is actually pretty different than what you see when you get here. And I'm saying Africa, but I should be saying Kenya, because I'm sure each African country is very different than the other. But what I saw was that a lot of the poverty is really kind of self-inflicted. I know there's a lot of international reasons for it, but it's a mentality. It really is a mentality, because, you know, the people are not trying to help themselves very often with this situation of the poverty. So it reinforced my belief that I wouldn't really easily give anything to charity, because I'm not convinced that it goes to where it's supposed to go to. That is a big learning point. Harassment in the early days from police was a bit of a challenge, especially that I didn't expect that from black police officers. I was expecting it to be different compared to what you'd experienced in the UK. But yeah, initially, there was quite a lot of harassment, but then with a continued drive to cut down corruption and all that, that stopped after 2 or 3 years. And now I don't get any harassment like that from people at all. So those are some of the learning points. And the other thing I suppose I learned is there's quite a lot of opportunities out here. And it's a lot easier to set things up than the UK. It is getting a bit more difficult because what they've got now in Kenya is something called e-citizen. And so you really do need to have a Kenyan on board who's got a Kenyan ID number. That makes it a lot easier, because a lot of things now are actually on the net, so you can do it in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah. I found for myself as an investor and paying that $2,000 every 2 years, you get your own citizen number, or e-citizen number, sorry, and then you can just do it. So you don't really need a Kenyan, but it's certain cases you could say it's like what the Black Americans say, it's good to have that white friend in the car when you get stopped.
Yeah. I've heard that one.
It's something along those lines. But yeah, I understand what you're saying in that respect. What would you do differently if you?
What I would do differently if I had the opportunity, I think it would be, what I'd have done is I'd have come and spent some time in Kenya before actually moving over here. In doing so, I'd be able to find out what Kenyans actually need. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then have a look around, and then that's what I would do. But before coming over here, because I came over in 2008, what I would actually do is go around, drive around in a van in London, Wiltshire, and just pick up all of the things that people have left out at the front of their house, such as TV, fridges, electronics, laptops, computers, etc., and store them all away in a lockup. And then put them on a container and ship them over and sell them. And that's probably what I'd have done differently.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
You still have room for that, really? Yeah. Okay.
True. But the only thing is, because of the economy worldwide, people are not throwing out so many good stuff as they used to.
You'll be surprised in London, I'll tell you that.
True.
What do you miss about home as in England?
I miss about home or in England systems that work. easily without having to think much about it. I miss systems at work. Jump in your car and you don't have to think much about driving to work. It's kind of like automatic. But here you can be on a public transportation. The police stops the bus, the matatu, or we Jamaicans will call it the minibus, and everyone's shut off. Could be in the middle of nowhere. Now you've got to find other means of transport. So I miss systems in place that works. You know, a bus comes at a certain times, it takes you from A to B, and that's what it does. There's not much thinking. You can sit down and relax while you're on the bus until your stop comes. Systems is what I miss.
I understand what you're saying. Since I've come back, and I came back last year, February, I noticed that with the public transport, everybody has an app now, which tells you where the bus is coming to the bus stop and at what time exactly, real life time. So it's not the scheduled time. It's like, and I find that superb.
Yeah.
You could.
That's great.
There's no waiting at the bus stops anymore. And when I first came back, and I noticed that I was always waiting at the bus stop for 20 minutes, half an hour, and everybody seemed to turn up just as the bus was coming, and this was 3 a.m. I was wondering, what am I missing? And then later on, my friend said to me, there's an app. And I thought, why didn't you tell me this earlier?
That's right.
Kind of thing.
That's right.
But yeah, okay.
That's right.
What, you spent... When you moved, how did your family take it?
They thought it was crazy, absolutely crazy, because I had a good job. I was a qualified science teacher, secondary school in London. And they thought, why are you taking yourself from earning reasonable cash into hardship? So they never saw any real sense in it, but then I suppose they're not quite as cultural as I am. But I just wanted a change from the UK. So they were not happy, and they were not happy with my partner coming with me. In fact, she wasn't happy and her family wasn't happy because they all thought it was a backward step, financially at least. But I was determined to go, so I went. And, you know, they still think I should come back, I think. But they've pretty much got used to the idea that full-time in the UK is probably not where I'm heading.
Your partner's Kenyan, yes?
She's Kenyan, yeah.
So her parents, who are Kenyan, were saying you shouldn't be coming back home.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I had to make that clear for the listeners. But you defied all odds and you came back anyway.
We all came back. Her, myself, and our young boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. So why did you choose Kenya?
Chose Kenya because, as I said, I had looked at a few countries that I had visited and been in a few times prior, and Nairobi seemed like it had the target market that we were looking at. And they've got quite a good, strong middle class of females in Nairobi, educated, doing well, good jobs. So I thought that'd be a good market to a place to come in. It's kind of, security is safe in Kenya. I know some of the local Kenyans, they think that there's security problems in Kenya. It's in their head. It's what's being taught to them. But I see Kenya as a pretty safe place, very safe, including Nairobi, that is. Mombasa is probably one of the safest places that you'll find, if you ask me. Apart from a few little political things here or there that is stirred up, very safe place. So yeah, that's why I came.
I have to second that, really, because what I noticed is that in all my years there, I never saw a street fight.
Yeah, that's right.
And I've seen many a street fight in London and even other places around the world, especially Europe, and of course America goes without saying. And when there was any kind of dispute or argument, everybody would get involved and basically wag their finger at the person who's doing wrong. and they that term where, and like
Yeah.
you kind of have to behave yourself,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And I really admired that. That was like an observation that I really in that
Yeah.
sense of things.
In fact, when I remember one time I was driving on a matatu, which is a minibus, for those who don't know, I was driving on a matatu, and one minibus stopped, and the other minibus stopped, and the whole a group of guys jumped off of both of them, and they started arguing and all the rest of it. The amazing thing was, it went on for a few minutes. Then everyone jumped back on their matatu and they drove off. And I thought, this couldn't happen in London. This couldn't happen in Jamaica. Somebody would definitely get hurt. So it was kind of a really amazing experience to see that they just talked themselves down and everyone went about their own business. Yeah.
I can have a bit of a temper at times, and I lost my temper with one of the movers. He was drunk, and he was causing problems with my belongings, and so I must have shoved him, and then the rest of them jumped up, and this man came and he said, "No, we don't fight in Kenya. No, we don't. We call you place. We have you deported." I thought, okay, probably a bad move, but when you look at that, that's a positive. The only negative is the law and order won't necessarily do what they're meant to do, but the positive thing is that things don't have to succumb to violence.
They don't fight really.
They're not really. It's all about passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Notice. Do you feel what you could have done? What you did, sorry, you could have done in any country in Africa? From the ones you've been to? Okay.
From the ones I've been to, definitely. But and I've been to quite a few: Uganda, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Ghana. Was meant to went to Nigeria, but they were done it. I think that the country which I'm not saying that I'm sure because I've never been there. I think maybe South Africa would be a bit more challenging. I think it might have been challenging.
Yeah. It was actually a toss-up for me between South Africa and Mombasa. I don't say Kenya, I say Mombasa, but Mombasa was more tropical climate. So, and I love the heat, I love the sun, and I love the beach. So I chose Mombasa.
Any regrets that you didn't go to South Africa?
It's not regrets. It's more of the things that what would have things had been like. It's the unknowing. It's the unknowing. I was starting quite a serious relationship with someone there that time. So I would have kind of just slotted in with her being so exposed as I was here. But then I've learned at the sharp end from investing in Kenya, and I would say I'm better for it. So I feel like after doing business in Kenya, I could do business anywhere.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not easy to do business. But the funny thing about South Africa, I've never had an interest in going there.
Have you been there before?
No, I don't even think if somebody gave me the flight money and spending money, I still don't think I would go.
I understand what you're saying because I was never interested in South Africa, and I only went there because the company I was contracted to in the private security industry sent me there. But when I was there, I was overwhelmed. It's like, think of Western Europe, Paris, even London.
Yeah.
It's more designed in a New York feel with the streets, especially Durban, Johannesburg, but it's just black people. Barring Cape Town, obviously Cape Town, Southern Africa, the southern part of Southern Africa has got 10 million white people, and then you've got the Cape Coloreds, and in other words, mixed race. But it's just a whole new experience. So you've got all the amenities that you would have at home back in London, but it's just all run by black people. And that is experience I've never really experienced. And when I mean run, I mean, it was like these everything worked in order when I was there, and even the townships were developing. So that was a real big eye opener. But yeah, so that's another thing. I don't necessarily believe what I hear on the news at all anymore. I just go and see for myself.
Not bad. That's a good approach.
Yeah, unless they're telling me about Russia's really racist, and I say, okay, I believe that.
Yeah,
I believe that. I'll just stay out. I'd love to go to Stalingrad, but I'll pass for now. How has have you had to adapt your mindset since you started to invest in Africa?
yeah. I mean, because the reality is things develop slowly in Kenya. I don't really like saying Africa because I'm just in one country out of many. So I like to really keep it Kenyan because that's where I am. I'm sure Ghana, well, I know Ghana is very different, Nigeria is different, etc. They're all different. So the mindset, yeah, I've had to change here because things develop slowly. That's one thing. The other thing I would say in Kenya is the colonial English way of thinking is still kind of rampant in many things that you see here in Kenya. You still have people who die to go to the UK. So my mindset has changed a lot. And it's one of the things is realizing how Western the thinking is in many Kenyans.
What you say there about colonialism or mindset, I think is really a good point, and I'd like to elaborate on that by saying that when I went to Kenya first, so I went to Kenya before I went to South Africa, apart from doing the northern parts of Africa, is that I didn't realize that I had been indoctrinated by the media back home. So regardless of being black, I came with a very colonialistic mindset that if they're doing anything Western and it wasn't done the same way we do it home, it's wrong. And I was there to correct them and show them, and that just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Just like the Japanese and the Chinese, they take other technology from the West and they make it work for them. They do that in Kenya, and you need to learn to understand that they've had a culture that's going back far further than London has. And if it works for them, see what you can learn from them. And then when you do things, you can do it your way and do a comparison. And they will notice when you do it your way, and they will maybe ask you a question or adapt if necessary, or just leave it alone. But
I agree 100%.
It is a bit, if you don't understand that and you really have that colonial mindset, and then you have a business and it's your baby, when they do things a different way, you can end up throwing all your toys out the pram. And you need to take control of yourself in that sense.
I mean, I would also say is that although, you say that a colonial mindset, but from my point of view, also a very Jamaican mindset, because the home I grew up in was mum and dad both Jamaican, very Jamaican mindset. So you're looking at the Jamaican way of doing or way of thinking with the Kenyan way of thinking and the UK way of thinking, and they're all very different. They're all very different. So you've got to know when to use which part, I suppose.
Yeah, a wise man, if you see it like tools in a toolbox, you accumulate all the tools possible and you just need to know when to use them. I heard a Kenyan say one time, when they go to London, they put their London hat on. As soon as they get off on the plane in Kenya, they put their Kenyan hat on. And I think that is very, very wise, really.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah.
You can't, don't push your way on any other culture, regardless of who you are, whether you're American or Australian or what have you. Just allow people to be who they are. They will learn from you, and you can learn from them, and just moving on. With things.
just want to just add to that. It's funny you may say that, because that is true, but then try telling that to the vast majority of Kenyans, because they want, especially the younger generation, they want to, the behavior, they want to really behave more and more like those guys from the West, of course, because of the exposure from the internet. But anyway, yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, the younger generation, I find, I know we're deviating here, the younger generation in any country are always influenced by social media, and they want to be like that. And then as you get older, you start to really find yourself, and then you realize that you don't need to mimic or be like other people. So I understand what you're saying, but I also put down to that youthful mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset. So we're going back to mindset on here.
Yeah. Okay.
So how would you say your mindset has changed from before and after? It's a similar question, but slightly different.
When you say before and after, before coming or what do you mean by that?
So you had a perception of how Kenya is going to be. And you know that even if you look at it from the Jamaican point of view, you know, you see the Africans are backwards or not advanced as us or what have you, and then you go there and you realize actually, blah blah blah.
Well, the thing that you get pumped on a lot in the UK is, for example, the poverty, and so I thought it'd be poorer than it is actually. And I always say to people is that I don't actually see Kenya as being poor. They're just poor in the way they think. If you believe, they need more beliefs. So that I now see Africa as that they don't need the West to get out of this poverty that they're in. They just need a change in mindset. So my views have changed on that. Money laundering, and I don't know if that's the right term, but money laundering, disaster that goes on. How I actually see that is that these things are not, say, 100% designed, but they're needed so that people from Africa, Kenya, the West, they can actually shift money around and keep the bulk of it for themselves. So I didn't before coming, I didn't understand how that worked. I could give examples, but it would take some time. Yeah, that's probably the main mindset of how it is. And the other thing is that what I've learned being in Kenya, once you're a foreigner, you're a foreigner. And I suppose for someone like myself and maybe you, it's easy for us because we were born foreigners. You go to Jamaica, you're a foreigner. You're in the UK, you're a foreigner. And sorry to say it, but even in Kenya, you don't forget that you're a foreigner. But because we're born foreigners, it's okay because we've already over the fact that anywhere we go, yes, we are. We're foreigners. And there is a difference.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. I understand that. Just for the listeners' point of view, there's 42 tribes in Kenya. Well, there's actually 43 because they made the Indians a tribe. But generally, obviously, tribes go back way before Christ and beyond. So that's some real rooted thing. So when we're speaking of foreigners, it's more about a tribal sense than nationality in that respect. Last question. If you had to do it all again, would you? Did you catch that?
If I goes here, which was, you've got a good job, get yourself a mortgage.
Sorry, because that cut out totally there. If you start on that question again, sorry that.
Go on then.
If you had to do it all again, would you?
If I had to do it all again, I would have come to Kenya, Africa, or even the Caribbean, Jamaica, home. I'd have went there 10 years earlier than I did. And But what I'd have done this time, I'd have listened to my mum if I had, you know, fought early enough, and I'd have had a mortgage, sell the house, and then use that cash to come over to Kenya. And just to add to that, if I probably had to do it all over again, just to close, I probably would not have ended up in Kenya, and I can explain why, although I have no regrets of being in Kenya. When you've got acres and acres and acres of land at home, which is Jamaica, right? Do you know any other nationality, any other group of people who would be going to someone else's country when they have land that they could actually have access to and do something with? So if I was to do it all again, I'd have forgotten about the guns and all that kind of stuff, because I'm a lot wiser now and realize that if I was in Jamaica, you have to be a part of the community. You have to do a bit of charitable sides to the community, help the community, and you'll be perfectly okay. So if I had to do it again, me personally, I would have went to Jamaica, lived on our land. It's already got a farm there, where, you know, natural farm. Farm that stuff there, the fruits and the crop and the vegetables, and then do a business maybe in a city, maybe Kingston or Maypen, somewhere like that in Jamaica. Yeah, that's what I'd have done differently, I think. Probably not the answer people want to hear, but yeah, I'd have probably ended up in Jamaica.
Okay. What I would say to that is that people do go to other places when they have land at home. I think the fact that there's so much migration all over the world indicates that whether you're coming from a Western country or coming from the lower hemisphere of the world, people have land and they move, and whether they move for beliefs or spiritual reasons or health reasons or just economical reasons, you know, people just move. I personally I've been to Jamaica twice, but I didn't see it as a big enough market. I just thought, well, Africa's got 1.2 billion people and they're all on the same land mass. And Jamaica's got 3.5 million, and there's no comparison. Okay, the food and the culture I understand, but still, if I'm doing business, I want that market of the 1.2 billion people. Do you see what I mean? And that's
Yeah,
where I look at it. But I understand what you're saying.
And what you've just said is a very good point for the listeners, because you know, to bring home that anyone who's thinking about moving to Africa, Caribbean, they should do it for their reasons. And I'm sure all of the reasons that people will have will be different. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time. I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot from your experiences. Should anybody want to find you on social media platform, what are you on? Are you on Instagram, Facebook? Under what name?
I'm on Instagram under Lick Salon. I'm on Google Maps under Lick Salon. I'm on Facebook under Yie Lick. And yeah, so you can catch me by using any of those. Or even an email, you can drop me an email on liq@yahoo. Sorry, I'll repeat that. liq salon@yahoo.com. Lick actually is spelled LIQ and not LICK. So lick salon@yahoo.com.
Okay, then. Thanks again, and
Pleasure.
we'll see you another time.
Take care. Thanks for the interview.